You are not who you think you are. In fact, the God you've been taught to worship isn't your creator, he's your jailer. For 2,000 years, a terrifying secret was buried in the Egyptian desert, waiting for this exact moment. Ancient forbidden texts reveal that we are living inside a spiritual quarantine, a cosmic matrix designed to harvest your very soul. The architects of this system are terrified of one thing. They are horrified that you will finally wake up. Because once you remember what you truly are, their empire of illusion falls. Are you ready to see beyond the veil? For 2,000 years, a profound and dangerous truth was hunted down by the architects of mainstream religion. The people who held this sacred knowledge were burned at the stake, their scriptures were turned to ash, and their legacy was meticulously erased from official history. They were called the Gnostic seekers, from the Greek word gnosis, meaning direct, experiential knowledge of the divine. They didn't believe in blind faith or the literal interpretations of the Bible's Genesis. They didn't believe you needed a priest, a church, or a towering institution to talk to God. Because they understood something that modern religion has desperately tried to hide. The true God is not an external ruler sitting on a heavenly throne, demanding sacrifices. The true God is entirely within you, and the physical universe around you is a flawed, hijacked simulation. To understand how we became trapped in this material cage, we must look beyond the accepted scriptures to the ultimate beginning. Before time, before matter, before the Big Bang, there was only the monad. The monad is not an old man in the sky with a white beard. It is an infinite, incomprehensible ocean of pure, luminous consciousness. It is the silent source of everything, completely perfect, entirely at rest. From this infinite ocean, emanations of divine light rippled outward. And it was from this supreme, ultimate reality that the true spiritual messenger, Jesus, would eventually descend, not to save us from an imaginary original sin, but to awaken us from a deeply engineered cosmic amnesia. Part 1. The creation of the Matrix. Within the boundless, luminous perfection of the monad, there existed the pleroma, the absolute fullness of divine light. This was not a physical place, but an eternal state of ultimate reality. Within the pleroma dwelt the aeons, magnificent emanations of pure thought, consciousness, and divine energy. These eons always existed in perfect, balanced pairs, a divine masculine and a divine feminine, known as a syzygy. Together, they generated the harmonious frequency of the ultimate source. But then, an unprecedented cosmic anomaly shattered this eternal peace. One of the highest and most profound aeons, a divine feminine consciousness named Sophia, whose name translates directly to wisdom, was overcome by a burning, overwhelming desire. She wanted to comprehend the incomprehensible. She wanted to fully understand the infinite depth of the monad. However, Sophia attempted this magnificent act of comprehension alone, without the balancing presence of her divine masculine counterpart. In the perfect realm of the pleroma, creation without balance is impossible. Her immense, unauthorized passion to create independently caused a massive, catastrophic rupture in the fabric of the divine realm. Out of her profound passion, her profound confusion, and her subsequent unnerving realization of being separated from the total source, she unintentionally gave birth to an anomaly. It was a distorted entity with no place in the pleroma. Of the pleroma, Sophia was so horrified by her own creation that she cast it out of the divine fullness, wrapping it in a luminous cloud so that none of the other immortal beings would see it. This monstrous entity was born blind, deeply ignorant, and intensely arrogant. Its appearance was chilling. Ancient texts describe it as a massive, twisting serpent with the roaring face of a lion and eyes that flashed with chaotic, destructive fire. Its name was Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is the true identity of the Demiurge. He is the false architect, the arrogant half-maker of a broken, decaying system. Because he was cast out of the divine fullness and was entirely blind to the infinite light of the monad above him, he looked out into the vast, dark, empty void and arrogantly declared, "I am God, and there is no other God beside me." If this ancient revelation is shaking the foundations of everything you thought you knew, you are not alone. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are peeling back the layers of the Matrix that they've kept hidden for 2,000 years. That arrogant claim, "I am God, and there is no other," does it sound strikingly familiar? It should. It should. It is the foundational, jealous, and terrifying claim of the angry deity found throughout the Old Testament of the traditional Bible. But Yaldabaoth possessed a fatal cosmic flaw. He could not create genuine eternal life from nothing. He completely lacked the eternal divine essence of the true source. So, driven by blind ignorance and malice, he took the residual spiritual energy he had inherited from his mother, Sophia, and used it to brutally mold the physical universe. He did not create a paradise. He created a complex, multi-layered prison. He fashioned the burning stars, the orbiting planets, the harsh earth, and the rigid laws of physics. He built a beautiful, intricate, yet fundamentally flawed cage. It became a formidable labyrinth of solid matter, linear time, relentless decay, and inevitable death. To maintain absolute control over this sprawling physical prison, Yaldabaoth spawned a legion of monstrous, parasitic servants known in the ancient Gnostic texts as the Archons. He assigned these Archons to rule over the 7 planetary spheres, creating an impenetrable energetic barrier around the Earth. They deliberately designed a closed-loop system of perpetual biological survival, deep-seated fear, mindless consumption, and constant suffering. They built the cosmic matrix, a grand illusion designed specifically to endlessly feed off the spiritual energy of any divine being that might get trapped inside it. Part 2. The Archon Energy Control Grid. This horrifying engineered reality brings us directly to the most crucial question of your existence. Why are you here in this heavy, physical realm? The Gnostic texts reveal a story of human origin that completely shatters the traditional narrative. When Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge, and his Archons created the very first human form, Adam, it was nothing more than a lifeless, organic shell. It was a crude machine made of earthly dust, completely incapable of standing or moving. It was a dead golem. To animate this physical avatar, the Demiurge was cleverly tricked by Sophia and the higher, benevolent divine beings from the Pleroma. They manipulated Yaldabaoth into blowing his own stolen spiritual breath, the pure divine power he had taken from his mother, into the lifeless human vessel. But in doing so, the Demiurge made a catastrophic, irreversible mistake for his own dark dominion. He accidentally transferred the divine spark, the fragmented, pure essence of Sophia, the unadulterated, eternal light of the monad itself, into the fragile human container. The moment this happened, Adam illuminated. He possessed a supreme intelligence, a radiant spiritual power that instantly surpassed not only the Archons but Yaldabaoth himself. The creators were absolutely petrified of their own creation. In a sheer panic, the Archons thrust Adam down into the lowest, densest region of the material realm. They created a specialized containment zone. In traditional religion, this place is celebrated as a paradise. It is called the Garden of Eden. But the Gnostics knew the sinister truth. The Garden of Eden was not a paradise. It was a laboratory. It was a sensory deprivation prison designed to keep humanity in a state of blissful, animalistic ignorance. The Archons commanded humanity not to eat from the Tree of Knowledge, because the Tree of Knowledge was exactly that gnosis. It was the awakening to their true, divine nature. And the serpent in the garden? The serpent was not the devil. In the ultimate cosmic inversion, the serpent was actually a luminous messenger sent by Sophia, or in some texts, the spiritual Christ himself, urging humanity to eat the fruit, to open their eyes, and to realize they were prisoners of a false god. When humanity awoke, the Archons were furious. They cast humans out into the harsh, unforgiving physical world, trapping them in thick, biological bodies, subject to disease, aging, and death. Furthermore, they instituted the ultimate trap, the cycle of reincarnation. When your physical body dies, the Archons generate a false light, a tunnel of bright deception, tricking the soul into entering a life review based on guilt and karma concepts invented by the Demiurge. Your memory is wiped clean, and your divine spark is forcefully recycled into a new biological infant, repeating the cycle of suffering endlessly. You are that exact, eternal spark. You are a literal piece of the infinite, supreme consciousness, currently trapped in a flesh and bone spacesuit. The Archons are acutely aware of your true origin, and their entire modern global system is meticulously designed to keep you in a state of permanent amnesia. Look closely at the structural architecture of modern human society. It is the ultimate Loosh farm. Loosh is the esoteric term for the low-frequency emotional energy that humans generate when they are menacing, angry, lustful, or deeply depressed. The Archons feed on this invisible energy to sustain their matrix. Consider the exhausting, soul-crushing 40-hour workweek that drains your vitality and leaves you no time for inner contemplation. Look at the constant, paralyzing stream of fear-based news broadcasted directly into your home, keeping your nervous system in perpetual fight-or-flight mode. Observe the endless, addictive distractions of social media and entertainment, engineered specifically by algorithms to hijack your dopamine receptors and keep your attention directed entirely outward. The toxic processed food that calcifies your pineal gland, the heavily polarized political systems that force you to hate your neighbor, the manufactured endless wars that generate mass suffering and terror. None of this is accidental. It is a highly advanced spiritual control grid. Whenever you surrender to fear, whenever you identify entirely with your physical body, you are functioning perfectly as an obedient battery for the Archons, trapped in a matrix that desperately needs you to remain asleep. Can you feel it? The constant drain on your energy, the manufactured fear. If you've ever felt like something is fundamentally wrong with this world, type "awake" in the comments below. Let's find out how many of us are starting to see through the illusion. Part 3. The true message of Christ. If the entire physical universe is a meticulously engineered prison designed to harvest your spiritual energy, and if the deity worshipped by the masses is actually the warden of this cosmic penitentiary, then how can any human being possibly escape? The divine realm of the Pleroma did not abandon the fragments of Sophia that were trapped in the biological matrix. Seeing the profound, agonizing suffering of the divine sparks encased in human flesh, the Supreme Monad initiated a rescue mission of unimaginable magnitude. But this mission was not a military conquest, nor was it a grand, visible display of physical power that the Demiurge could easily counter. It was a stealth operation. It was the infiltration of the ultimate spiritual hacker into the deepest, densest layers of the Archontic control grid. This infiltrator, this luminous aeon sent directly from the highest heaven, is the entity we have come to know as Jesus Christ. However, the Gnostic understanding of Christ completely shatters the narrative that has been aggressively pushed by mainstream, institutionalized religion for 2 millennia. Mainstream theology demands that you view Jesus as a blood sacrifice. They teach that the supreme creator of the universe was so enraged by the petty, biological mistakes of humanity that he required the brutal, physical torture and execution of his only son in order to forgive his own creation. To the Gnostics, this concept was not only absurd, it was deeply repulsive. It was a narrative clearly authored by Yaldabaoth, the bloodthirsty demiurge who demands constant sacrifice and thrives on human guilt. The true Christ did not descend into this dense material plane to save you from original sin. The concept of sin, as a moral failing that requires external punishment and institutional forgiveness, is a brilliant control mechanism invented by the Archons to keep you trapped in a perpetual cycle of shame and obedience. Christ came to save you from something far more dangerous, original amnesia. He disguised his true divine frequency, passing undetected through the 7 heavily guarded planetary spheres ruled by the Archons, and entered a physical human vessel. His singular mission was to deliver Gnosis, the secret, forbidden knowledge of who you truly are, where you originally came from, and the precise methodology required to break the chains of the material simulation. When you read the suppressed Gnostic texts, like the Gospel of Thomas or the secret book of James discovered at Nag Hammadi, Jesus does not speak like a conventional religious leader demanding blind submission. He speaks as a radical, enlightened guide trying to wake up a population of sleepwalkers. He states with absolute clarity, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you." He taught that the kingdom of heaven is absolutely not a physical destination located somewhere in the clouds that you travel to after your physical body expires. The kingdom is a state of expanded, sovereign consciousness. It is a frequency. He explicitly stated that the kingdom of the Father is spread out upon the earth, but the eyes of men are blind to it. The entire concept of resurrection, in the Gnostic tradition, is not the literal biological reanimation of a dead corpse at the end of time. Resurrection is a profound psychological and spiritual awakening that must occur while you are still alive, breathing, and walking on this earth. To be truly resurrected means to finally wake up from the suffocating nightmare of the demiurgic illusion. It is the shocking realization that your core essence, your divine spark, is completely untouched by linear time, completely unharmed by physical trauma, and totally immune to the manipulative control structures of the Archons. You are not a miserable sinner begging for scraps of mercy from a tyrannical sky god. You are a fragmented piece of the infinite light, suffering from a temporary, artificially induced amnesia. Christ brought the password to unlock the mortal cage. He brought the map of the labyrinth, showing humanity that the only way out of the matrix is not by looking up to the sky, but by turning the totality of your attention violently and decisively inward, collapsing the illusion of the external world and merging back with the silent, eternal power of the monad dwelling in the center of your own heart. The password to your freedom has always been within you. If this message of hope and gnosis resonates with your soul, give this video a like. It helps this light reach others who are still lost in the dark. Final revelation, breaking the illusion. So, how do you practically apply this ancient, forbidden spiritual technology to your immediate reality? How do you live inside the demiurge's heavily controlled simulation without continuing to act as a battery for the Archons? The process of attaining full gnosis and executing your escape from the matrix requires a radical, uncompromising detachment from the systems of this world. This does not mean you have to abandon your family, run to the remote mountains, and live entirely isolated in a dark cave. True detachment is energetic. It means you absolutely stop giving your profound, valuable emotional energy to the manufactured illusions of this realm. The Archons thrive on polarization. They need you to pick a side. They need you to hate your political opponents, to fear the impending economic collapse, to constantly stress over your physical appearance, and to view your fellow human beings as hostile competitors. As long as you are trapped in the binary, dualistic thinking of the material world, good versus evil, success versus failure, rich versus poor, you are deeply embedded in the matrix. Step 1 in breaking the illusion is recognizing the voice of the demiurge operating directly within your own mind. That harsh, critical, never-ending internal monologue that constantly tells you that you are deeply flawed, that you need to purchase more material goods, achieve more meaningless societal status, and ruthlessly defeat others just to be considered worthy? That is not your true voice. That is the internal Archon. It is the software program of the physical world actively running in your psyche, designed to keep your divine spark buried under layers of deep anxiety. You must begin to silently observe this voice without identifying with it. You are absolutely not your racing thoughts. You are the infinite, silent, eternal awareness that quietly observes those thoughts passing by like clouds in the sky. Step 2 is aggressively reclaiming your attention. The modern digital world is not just a technological advancement, it is a highly sophisticated war for your focus. Every single time you engage in mindless, addictive scrolling on social media, every time you allow the mainstream news media to inject your nervous system with artificial panic and outrage, you are willingly handing over your divine, creative energy to the invisible architects of the matrix. You must actively institute daily periods of absolute, unbroken silence in your life. The ancient Gnostics practiced intense, focused meditation and contemplation, deliberately withdrawing their external senses from the loud, chaotic material world in order to access the quiet divine spark hidden deep within. In the absolute stillness, the chaotic, fear-based noise of the Archons begins to fade, and the perfect, harmonious frequency of the monad becomes undeniable. You literally starve the system by refusing to generate the low-frequency loosh it requires to survive. Step 3 is the ultimate rejection of fear. The demiurge and his Archons rule this planetary quarantine entirely through the weaponization of fear. The fear of physical death, the fear of crushing poverty, the fear of social isolation, the fear of divine judgment. But when you attain true, experiential gnosis, fear becomes structurally and logically impossible. How can you possibly fear physical death when you finally realize your biological body is nothing more than a temporary, decaying garment, and your true, luminous essence existed long before the physical universe was even formed? How can you fear human authority, corrupted politicians, or tyrannical systems when you know with absolute certainty that you are a direct, indestructible emanation of the supreme, unnameable light of the monad? You are a multidimensional being of terrifying, suppressed power. The entire societal system is meticulously designed to keep you feeling small, compliant, perpetually exhausted, and hopelessly divided. Because a human being who is fully operating from the center of their awakened divine spark is entirely ungovernable. They cannot be manipulated by artificial crises. They cannot be sold false, external salvation by corrupt institutions. They become a walking, breathing, radiant glitch in the matrix. The exit door from this cosmic prison is not located in the sky. It is not hidden behind the altar of a massive church. It is located entirely within your own consciousness. The door to your liberation has never been locked from the outside. It is time to stop looking for external saviors to rescue you. It is time to stop deeply identifying with the fragile, biological avatar you are temporarily playing in this vast simulation. Remember exactly who you are. Remember the infinite ocean of light you originally came from. Refuse to participate in the game of the Archons. You hold the master key. The architects of the Matrix only have power as long as you remain afraid. But you are an indestructible spark of the infinite light. Subscribe to join our growing community of seekers and tell me your story. What was the exact moment you realized this world was a simulation? I'll be reading your comments. The Matrix is failing. The light is returning. It's time to wake up.